Major League Baseball owners have approved the Rays' sale to a group that, of course, is led by developer Patrick Zalewski. And now there's just some formalities of the transfer of monies and things like that, Federal Trade Commission stuff. $1.7 billion a purchase price. And this all but officially ends the Stu Sternberg era, Steve. It's kind of a watershed day in a way.
It really is, and it's been, 20 years after resurrecting a franchise that was possibly leaving the market, possibly, I don't think folding, but it was a dormant franchise, essentially. I mean, it wasn't winning. It was kind of the laughing stock around baseball. Probably was not going to remain in the area. I mean, the honest truth is there was two teams like that at the time. I mean, the Lightning were kind of in the same boat around that time as well.
Yeah. Who was the owner then of the Lightning? Do you know?
Was that the
insurance salesman?
Coolis? There was Art Williams. There was a bunch of them in that time frame.
Yeah.
But, Stu Sternberg took a franchise that, hadn't won and rebranded it. As he would say, break a few windows, just don't burn the place down.
Mm-hmm.
Did things differently. Tried a lot of things. Some worked, some didn't. And ultimately, in the last 17 years, they have the third most wins in baseball behind the Dodgers and Yankees. 2 World Series appearances. And the envy of all baseball, your baseball operations department, for what they do with the budget they have.
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable the job that he did, and one of the greatest rebrandings of a franchise I've ever seen. And to some extent, the Bucs did that when the Glazers came here, the new uniforms and all that. And now they're embracing their past that they kind of wanted to push away from. But when they became the Rays and not the Devil Rays, and they went to the more sort of traditional blue and white color schemes and stuff like that, I thought it was phenomenal what they were able to do. But on the field was where the story was. The baseball analytics, the players that they brought in that had been cast away in many cases, drafting and developing, obviously the superstars like Evan Longoria and BJ Upton and guys like that. But and it happened really, really quickly, to be honest with you. It didn't take that long before they were relevant, and they've stayed that way. And I always say this, like, I think Sternberg went as far as he could go because nobody trusted him. When I say nobody, probably political people that he would need to, get stadiums built either in Pinellas or Hillsborough. Certainly Pinellas was done with him. So I'm not sure that if you wanted baseball in Tampa Bay, it was ever going to be owned by Stuart Sternberg again. So from that standpoint, you have to be happy that, the Zalewski group came along, that they were able to pay an outrageous amount of money, $1.7 billion, when most estimates were valued that the team was valued around 1.2 or so. And obviously there's a group of investors. It's not just Zalewski, but he's obviously the main one. So there's going to be a lot of changes now. And, this thing still has to have some letters crossed and I's dotted and all that stuff. But it's the end of an era. And we don't know really what we don't know. You hope that, given their success, that anybody that, studies this franchise will want to retain a lot of the same ideas, a lot of the same employees when they can. But we already know that, they're losing 2 of their presidents already. So it's not going to be the same franchise. Now, some would argue it'll be better. Some will argue that this group will put money into product and, they'll re-sign Junior Camaneros and bring in, battle for free agents. That, to me, time will tell on that one. I'm not convinced. I think they paid an enormous price for this franchise. And I don't know how deep their pockets are, but I don't expect them to go out and bid for the top free agent next year.
I think time will tell. I mean, it's really, I think their goal will be to keep the people in baseball ops and the manager on the field and such.
Yeah.
I think that's their goal. That's what seems to be reported. Although you could also argue after 2 years of not making the playoffs and sub 500 records, most likely this season, that maybe they want to shake things up a little bit.
Perhaps, yeah.
But my hunch is they want to keep it the same. If for nothing else, priority number 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 for them is stadium.
Absolutely.
So your baseball ops department, unless you think they've done a bad job, and I don't agree with that. I'm guessing they wouldn't feel the same way. Like, you've got bigger, I don't want to say bigger things because ultimately winning on the field is the most important thing for a franchise.
But you can't do that until you solidify your home.
But you got to, if you're coming in, your priority number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is the stadium.
No question.
As much as you can, leave everything else the same. Now, Eric Neander could say, I don't want to work for this new group. Kevin Cash could say, I don't want to work for this new group, and others. We don't know how that's going to play out yet. Who knew that Andrew Friedman was going to leave, and that triggered a clause in Joe Madden's contract. Although I don't know if there's any clauses in contracts, but if Eric Neander goes to the new owners and say, I really don't want to be here, are they going to hold him to that?
No, I don't think they will.
Because they want guys that want to be here ultimately.
Sure.
So, but I also think, in what you're reporting, and if you're taking over this franchise, you'd like to think you're going to leave the same autonomy to those groups that Stu gave them. But new owners like to have their hands in things. New owners like to tinker with things. I paid $1.7 billion or a big chunk of that for my share. I'm going to do it I'm going to be Jerry Jones. I'm going to be, who knows? You don't know what this new group's going to do. It's all speculation at this point. And it's just like when a team hires a new coach. Yeah. Oh, it's so great. It's great. It's going to be fantastic. And everything is roses and everything is going to just all of a sudden got better because of this new hire. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it isn't. And only time's going to tell.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know who he has in mind bringing with him, but you got to imagine that, this group has individuals at least that they would like to work for them, and they may or may not mesh with what's over there now. And that's why you got to go through the organization. You got to meet with these people, vet them, find out what they want to do. I would not be, even though this is Kevin Cash's hometown, would it surprise me if he took this opportunity to say to the new owners, hey, I'm kind of over this. I think it's a good time for me to move on. No, it wouldn't surprise me. I would imagine they would want the 2-time manager of the year. Obviously they didn't make the playoffs again, but there's not a better manager out there that would, he'd be snapped up in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. So, but that's, change is just that. You don't know what you're going to get, and it's not going to be the same organization. Does that mean that this group, as some people allege, is going to spend money on free agents now? All I would say is that they paid an exorbitant amount of money for this franchise and still don't know where or how much it's going to cost to have a new stadium built, and how much of that is coming out of their pockets on top of the $1.7 billion. Like, I don't know how deep, I don't know how many free agents these guys are going to go compete for this next year. I wouldn't think that they would go after a lot of people and just try to retain their own as much as they can. But these are all the unknowns, and we're entering a new era, frankly. I mean, look at the difference between Namoli and Sternberg. What if the difference is that vast, good or bad, now after this sale? You just don't know. Kind of hold your breath and hope, I guess.
Yeah. No, and it could be that new owners take it to a level Stu could never dream of.
They could take it the rest of the way. Yeah, absolutely.
And,
that's the hope.
Yeah, there's always an unknown. Mm-hmm. And as much as you hear reports of this, that, and the other, you assume many of them are coming from inside, but it's also what probably new ownership wants to get out there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, we want to keep everything the same. You're not going to come in going, we're going to blow this up,
right?
You're not inheriting the Devil Rays from 2005 when that was the plan to blow everything up. And you could say that publicly, and everyone would have been like, okay.
Oh, these guys got 20-year track record of success
mm-hmm.
against the biggest budget teams in baseball.
Yep.
And, you'd be foolish not to utilize those resources and the people that are helping that happen, day after day. But it is new ownership, and new isn't always better, and new is sometimes just different and not necessarily good. So it's remember how many different owners have the Tampa Bay Lightning have? About 3 or 4?
No, it's been
at
more
least.
than that.
Has it been more?
Yep.
Before Davidson, and there was the
Well, you had the
insurance
Davidson
guy,
group.
and
You
then there
had,
was
you had
Arthur
Arnkulis in that. You had
Arnkulis,
Art Williams.
Right.
Obviously, Phil's group and the initial group.
So probably 5, maybe 6 groups, 4, 5,
I think
6.
6 or 7. 6 or 7 at this point.
6 or 7 groups, yeah. But when did they really become that perennial Stanley Cup champion contender every year?
Mm-hmm. Well, the Davidson group brought the first Stanley Cup.
They did, yeah.
And that, that was an organization that run, the Pistons and in Detroit and that, they knew what they were kind of doing.
Ran it from afar,
yeah. They were sports guys and had experience in this.
Mm-hmm. Hired Stevie Yzerman.
Well, no, Vinik hired Yzerman.
Oh, Vinik hired him. That's right.
Yeah.
Vinik hired him.
Yep. Yeah, that was what Vinik, Todd Lewicki, and Steve Yzerman were basically his first hires.
Yeah. Got it. But it went through several, different ownership hands before they got to where they are now.
Yep.
And that could, whether that happens now or not, or there's some stability with this group. The first question you ask these guys when they sit there in front of, everybody as actual owners of the Tampa Bay Rays is always going to be, how much money do you plan on spending? That's really what the question is.
The first ones will be about the stadium, and then the next one will be that.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Where are you playing, and then what are you going to?
And the stadium part is going to be how much money are you putting into the stadium?
Right. Exactly. And I'm just here to tell you, the fact that by many estimates they overpaid for this franchise, I don't know that the payroll is going to jack up right away. I don't know that. Nor do I know if it needs to. You've got pretty good homegrown players now. Yep. You can always add to it, obviously.
Well,
but
if you remember, even if you look at the way Stu was laying things out and Eric Neander and such, they were gearing up to the new stadium to increase payroll. Look at Wander Franco's contract.
That's right. Yes.
And how, it was a 12-year deal, but so much
it really
of that money
kicked in after the ballpark. Yeah.
Yep. Was as you get to the new ballpark, that's when the big money was kicking in on that contract.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, so, Stu was playing. It looks like, they were planning to spend more as they got to a new ballpark.
Right.
Or at least they were willing to spend to have their cornerstone pieces. Franco didn't work out, but that was the plan. So, and the other part is how quickly can they get a stadium built?
Well, that's huge.
You got 3 more years at the Trop, but you're probably going to have to extend that by another year or 2, if not 3.
Yeah, that's the first thing I think will happen is it'll be extended. There's no long-term plan right now. You're looking at the rehab of the Trop. There's, hopefully going to schedule an April 6th reopening. I don't know if that's realistic or not, but they're going back into the Trop. And I would think that once you get back there, they probably will extend the lease just to buy themselves some time.
They're going to have to.
You still have to
You can't get a stadium built in 3 years when you don't even know where it is yet.
Right. Exactly. You have no earthly idea. You have no deal, no agreement, no plot of land you can begin to tear up. You hear so many different sites too, The latest one that seems somewhat reliable is HCC. Near Raymond James. I don't know what the status of those, the properties are or anything like that. But
look, I think there's a lot of sites that they're looking at, and a part of it's going to be what deal they can get and
what can they afford.
Is it HEC? Is it Ybor? Is it the West Shore Plaza? Is it out by the fairgrounds? Is it? There's options.
Floating stadium, like on a ferry that goes between Tampa and St. Petersburg.
There you go. Let's go. Let's bring it on.
Hey, what does that cost? A little bit. Yeah. So, well, I'm not part of the group, unfortunately. I'd love to be, but they have not asked me to do so. And farewell to Stu, who was kind of neat. The last series, one game I saw him down in the working as a ball guy down on one of the lines.
Yep.
The right field line or whatever. I was thinking like that must have been like one of those childhood dreams you never got to fulfill.
Yeah, he said that. He actually said that. He goes, he's never done that before, not even as a kid. And
yeah,
wanted to do it beforehand.
It was actually pretty cool, I thought.
Absolutely. Like,
yeah.
Hey, you own that team. Why not?
Yeah. Go out in a blaze of foul balls. Why not? So that was neat. Yeah, I'm a little nervous. If I'm a Rays fan, I'm just a little uncertain about what this is going to mean. Hopefully it means what baseball wants it to mean, which is they're going to stay here in Tampa Bay. And there's some
ultimately
stability
baseball
now.
can force them to, although if they can't get a stadium done, then it becomes harder. But
and it's the ownership's groups to do that. Now they could change that up in a heartbeat, but that's what they've stated. So you have to take them at their word at this point. They're paying all that money. So yeah, third owner of the Tampa Bay Rays, Vince Naimoli, of course, being the original, the OG. But no playoffs for the Rays this year.
No, unfortunately, we do not get to see playoff games at Steinbrenner Field.
No. That would have been interesting, right?
That would have been cool.
I wonder what those tickets would have cost. Oh, my God. Only 10,000 available. Standing room only. And then they would put so much media would have had to fill a lot of that space, particularly in the outfield. I think they'd use that for an auxiliary press box or something. Didn't happen. In fact, now, did I hear where it's possible that the first couple weeks next year might be back there at Steinbrenner, or
I think
games?
Anything's possible. I mean, there's the regular season. They're on the road for the first 3 series.
Right. But so what about spring training?
Spring training's in Port Charlotte.
That's in Port Charlotte. Okay.
Yeah.
So they may or may not have their old ballpark refurbished by the time we get to open.
The plan is to be in the Trop from day one.
Okay. All right. Good.
But I mean, it is hurricane season.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you just don't know. But the plan is to be I think there's zero plans to play at Steinbrenner next year. Now, could they in a pinch if they had to? Well, obviously they've proven they can.
Yeah, that's true.
But they're not planning that. They're going into, the Yankees are going into this is back to our complex for spring training, and then for the Tarpons to play in. And the Rays will be back at the Trop. That's the plan for next year. And, that's why baseball scheduled them on the road for the first 3 series to give them extra time. The panels
God bless them.
I'll
say this. I don't know how fans feel, but I know how Kevin Cash feels, and I imagine a lot of those guys in the clubhouse is they can't wait to get back to the Trop. I mean, who knew, right? Until you were out there and going through what they went through, even though I think the Rays and everybody did as good a job as you could imagine making that a home for them. But there's so many reasons why they're like missing the Trop, and they're looking forward to going back there and playing. Just no two ways around it. Stuff you just don't have to deal with that they've had to deal with. Not the least of which is feeling like, you're sleeping in somebody else's bed, which is what you're kind of doing with the Yankees spring training home. So there's that. It's got to be a tough time of year, and I know they got a lot of rookies up and young guys they brought up from Durham and stuff that's giving them some energy and chances and their first bite of the show and all that. But these last few weeks when you're not in the playoffs in baseball after you played for 6 months, it's got to be depressing,
Yeah, I mean that's your goal. I mean it sucks for the team.
And it's 2 in a row for the Rays, which is so unusual for them.
Yep.
They've been members of the postseason all the time. All right. Well, we'll obviously there's plenty of news and reporting on the Tampa Bay Times and at tampabay.com, so you can check that out. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Buccaneers and what's going on, particularly with Mike Evans. But first, get on down to Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. That's where you're going to find Breitling Boutique. It's upstairs on the 2nd floor in the center of the mall. This is a fantastic store, and if you want a Swiss watch, the best timepiece you've ever owned, go to Breitling Boutique. The Breitling Company has been in business for over 140 years. They've been at International Plaza Mall for more than 5, and that's where you're going to find just great customer service for men, the Chronomat watches, the Navitimers, women. They have sports watches. These are durable. They're beautiful. A whole array of colored wristbands to choose from for her. And right now, while supplies last, Breitling Boutique has been selling NFL team watches, all 32 teams represented. It's been probably, close to 3 weeks or a month. I was by the Breitling store. I did see a Buccaneer team watch, you can go to our website and probably find a picture of it there. These are gorgeous watches. They're collector's items. You got to get one at Breitling Boutique. Make sure when you go, that you ask about the 104th year anniversary watches, because I'm telling you, these things are great with the team colors, the logos. You're going to want one. It is Breitling Boutique, and when you go, let them know that you heard about it, please, on Sports Day Tampa Bay. All right, little Bucs news today. Mike Evans is going for an MRI. That will be Tuesday morning sometime, I believe. I'm not sure why it didn't happen on Monday, except maybe they wanted the swelling to go down, something like that. That's always a possibility. But he will have an MRI, which is really going to dictate the next course of action. Look, I expect him to miss time. Todd Bowles didn't say that was a definite, but I think it's pretty obvious that he will, given his history and just the severity of the way it looked. It looked bad. They followed a camera into the tunnel with him at some point. He takes off his helmet, just kind of throws it forward in disgust. And I know how much this game means to Mike, how much he loves playing it, what his goals are. First and foremost to win, and then also set records of his own, and he's had 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons. And we know what happened last year. What happened last year was he got hurt in New Orleans. He managed to play won that game just a little bit, and then one more game he started against the Ravens. He had one catch for 25 yards, and he re-injured it or re-aggravated it, and he was out for 3 more weeks, and they lost all 4 games that he either played very little or was out altogether in. And that's because he's such a big piece to this offense. The whole passing game runs through him. And what I mean by that is, like, they feature him because you want to get him the ball, but they move him around as well. And the defense has to declare what they're doing. I mean, you can see whether he's got man or zone, or he's, most of the time he has safety help. They're not going to leave him one-on-one very much, but he creates one-on-ones for other guys. And without him in the lineup, that's going to be tougher to do. I'd be very careful not to rush him back, but they're getting into the meat of the schedule. I mean, the hardest games are starting kind of on Sunday with the Eagles, and then they're going to go to Seattle. They got a game against the 49ers. It gets much, much tougher down the stretch here. And that's when you really need Mike the most. And you're probably not going to have him for at least a game or two, I would imagine, possibly more. So devastating injury for the Bucs. The good news is Chris Godwin is supposed to come back to practice. Well, he's supposed to work with the starting team, him and Tristan Wirfs. And I'm told that if everything checks out, i.e. they're able to make it through Wednesday, Thursday, Friday without, a setback or soreness, I think one or both of those guys could actually play, which is huge news.
That is huge news. I mean, the injuries are mounting, and it's going to be a problem. I mean, luckily you're 3-0 to start.
Yeah.
So that helps. But, these injuries are mounting, and it seems at the same positions, which is always, with the salary cap and the roster limitations, you don't have depth anymore.
No, you don't.
You may have a guy at a position, like you may have an offensive lineman that's a good swing guy. You ain't got 5 of them.
No.
And you don't have 4 defensive tackles depth behind your starters. Like, you just don't. Like, it's
yeah.
You're piecing
lose
things
Kalijah
together.
Kancey, and you're out there looking for help.
Yep. And so, you got to figure out how to get through it. It's like, they always say next man up, and there's a reason for it. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't go stash a bunch of guys on your bench that are great depth pieces because of salary cap and limitations. So
yeah,
you got to figure out ways around it. You got to scheme around it. You got to figure out how to put your team in a position. But note the other teams having the same issues too, because they're all having injuries.
Oh yeah, and some people like Cincinnati have lost their quarterback, and to me, their season's over.
J.J. McCarthy's down. Jaden Daniels is down. Joe Burrow's down. I mean, you got quarterbacks going down.
Right. Yeah, you're not the Lone Ranger. I mean, there's guys, as soon as they start playing games, people are going to get hurt, and that's just the reality of it. But I'll be interested to see, because we've watched Chris Godwin, we've seen him on the field, we've seen him go through warm-ups, not seen him do anything football related yet. And myself, now I know he's practiced 2 days a week. They've kind of had a slow ramp up, for him. And, obviously for Tristan Wirfs, but for Godwin, it's a different deal, right? Because Godwin's going to get hit on every play when he catches the ball. And I remember him coming back off those, 3 torn knee ligaments, and they're playing at Dallas in the season opener. And I could have predicted this. I could have bet anybody this. The first play of the game was going to be a quick little smoke screen out to the boundary to Chris Godwin, just so he could get through the contact, right? Get it over with, get hit, get back up. Okay, we're good, right? We good? We're good. And, mentally, it was something that, he had been anticipating for a long time. Now, this time, different injury. Haven't seen him run. Don't know what he's been doing. Maybe he's in better shape. Who's to say? Who's to say? But he's going to, if he is cleared, he's going to team up with Emeka Egbuka. And those two guys are going to be the breadwinners. And I don't know if that means that Egbuka then moves outside to where Mike is. I think Chris could do it, but he's not a boundary player, more of a slot receiver for sure. But to get them both back would be huge this week, especially with the injury.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously Sterling Shepard's done a good job. They just got to find ways to keep getting healthier, to win, and hope that, you see a Jalen McMillan back, you see a Mike Evans, you see a Chris Godwin, all those guys on the field together one day. And it just hasn't happened. In the meantime, they have to find other things to do. So that's what's been kind of mounting at One Buck Place. There are other, guys that are questionable as far as injuries go. Christian Izien, not really sure where that's headed just yet. Everybody's kind of nicked up right now, but overall, it's not horrific just yet. I think the biggest change will be if Wirfs can play, and I don't have the answers to this, but if Wirfs can play, do you then take Graham Barton back out of left tackle and move him back to center, and then take Ben Bredesen, who's been playing center, and move him back to left guard? If you did that, then you'd have one side of your offensive line back intact, while the other side, would not be. You got to pick from one of the guards that they have playing right now. And then, but you do have Charlie Heck, who's an NFL swing tackle. I mean, he's a guy that's been in the fire before, not a rookie. So how much better would you be? I think you can be a hell of a lot better if that happens. If you see Tristan Wirfs come back, and he could also play right tackle if you were entirely happy with whoever you're going to move to left. I don't see that happening, but there's going to be some combinations there they're going to have to look at.
Well, the other part is how, with Godwin, how is he 70%? Is he 60? Is he 80? Is he?
We don't have any idea, right?
And same with Wirfs. Everyone's expecting he's going to come back and be the All-Pro left tackle. It may take a week or 2 or 3. He'll still be is he going to be better than what they have, Charlie Heck or whoever else that you're putting on the line when he's not there? Yes,
yeah, probably.
So. Yes.
Yeah,
but is he going to be
better than Graham Barton?
All-Pro? Yeah, is he going to be All-World, All-Pro? We don't know yet. We
don't have any idea.
These injuries take time.
Yeah,
and players want to come back quickly, and especially when you see the mismatch of the offensive line and how this week there was not one player in the position that you expected him to be at the beginning of the season.
It was crazy.
3.
Yeah.
So Wirfs is itching to get back there, but where is he percentage-wise? Much like in the offseason, he had the pain, but you're just thinking it's football. That's it. And it turns out it was something more, and they had to go get it taken care of. So it's good. We've seen Godwin when he's come back from injury, he's not 100%. And it takes time. It's going to. You're just trying to piece this together and keep clicking off wins. You got a 2-game lead in the division, you're 3-0. Just keep trying to figure out how to get wins. It doesn't matter how ugly it is. Doesn't matter if it comes out the last minute again. Just figure it out. And figure out. Todd Bowles talk about the chess pieces on defense. That's what the whole game is, really. And the offensive line. Is it Tristan Wirfs at left tackle? Barton go back to center, Bredesen to left guard? Or do you mix things up a little differently.
I mean, you could play Tristan Wirfs at right tackle.
Good.
If you really wanted to.
If you think Graham Barton's done a great job at left tackle.
Yeah. And then you could say, well, we're better off as bookends that way.
Yeah.
Because obviously Tristan began his career at right tackle, was an all-pro there.
Yep.
Before moving. I mean, it's weird, like just consider this last game. They had none of their original starting offensive linemen playing their actual position, right?
Yep.
They had no Godwin. They had no Jalen McMillan, who was having an unbelievable camp until he got, hurt with sort of the hospital ball that was thrown to him against Pittsburgh. Mike Evans, they finished the game without him. They had at least 4 drop penalties. They committed 4 drop passes. They committed 14 penalties for 124 yards, and they went 1 of 5 in the red zone. How the hell did they win this game? And not only did they win it, but at one point, they're up 17 in the fourth quarter, and yet they made all those mistakes. So to your point, you've overcome a lot to win these 3 games, and that's resiliency. That's short memory. It's certainly execution in those critical moments, like when Baker has to bring them back. So, they've just kind of morphed into this cardiac Bucs thing that's going on here. But I think that's what good teams do. I think good teams find ways to win, and they try to improve, as the season rolls along. But given the number of injuries they've had, they could easily make excuses. They could hang their heads after that block punt. A lot of teams, in fact, the Bucs, even with Baker Mayfield a few years ago, might have just said, that's it, we lose, even though they're trying like hell to win. But Baker is just so confident, and the way he's playing is better in the final 2 minutes than any quarterback in the NFL since he joined them. He's been doing this for a while. It's not just this season. Hasn't always produced wins per se, but like his role, his 2-minute offense, the way he's executed has been as good as anybody in football during that time. I saw a stat, trying to find it real quickly here. It was incredible because it shows that he's kind of at an MVP level when you think about it. So here it is. And the Bucs put this out. Since joining the Bucs, Baker Mayfield leads the NFL in passer rating, which is 101.6, passing yards 571, and is tied for the league in passing touchdowns with 5, with under 2 minutes remaining in regulation. That's if you've had at least 50 passing attempts. So he basically leads every category in a 2-minute situation, which is astounding when you think of the quarterbacks in this league. But that's how efficient he is. That's how good he is in those moments. And they're winning because of him, not in spite of him. They're winning because of him, and maybe in spite of some other mistakes they're making, and in spite of an offensive line that's just devastated right now. They're inconsistent running the ball. It's hard to protect Baker.
Well, let's also talk about Baker too, because one of the big stats and one of the reasons the Bucs are 3-0 is they're one of, I think, 2 teams in the NFL who have not turned the ball over yet.
That's a beautiful stat.
And last year, Baker Mayfield led the NFL in interceptions. And
had a ton of fumbles, too.
It was a ton of fumbles. No, he's had 1 fumble this year. They recovered it.
Yep. Bucs jumped on it, Rachaad White.
But he's doing a much better job protecting the ball, even with the makeshift offensive line in front of him.
I think he's very aware of that. He told me that going into training camp. He knew that with the injuries they had the offensive line, and he had to get rid of the ball quicker. I think he's making quicker decisions about when to run. I don't think he's back there holding on to it very long. He's obviously an effective runner. His 33-yard run was one of the longest they've had really by a quarterback in a while. So, he's just doing everything right. If you just keep playing like this and bring the other guys along with you, you really got something.
Yep.
But they're going to get tested now, man. They got Philly. They're at Seattle. At some point, they're going to have to play the Niners coming up here before too long. So these next stretch of 3, 4, 5 games are going to be all against really good teams. And then it gets easier. Then it gets much easier after that against teams that aren't very good. So they're going to get a measuring.
Especially when you start playing the teams in your division.
Yeah, exactly. Carolina, New Orleans. I mean, geez. By the way, terrible loss by Raheem against Carolina.
They fired their wide receiver coach.
They fired my man. Third and Ike.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't see the game, and I can't tell you what the receivers did or didn't do. But I'll be damned if you just got shut out. That if it's the receivers coach's fault, there's
I gotta
no way.
think there's something else there that I don't.
Maybe not related to winning and losing.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seemed weird that after that you fired the wide receiver coach.
Yeah, it just I hope he's not being scapegoated, but maybe there's
those
always a story.
Weren't on Penix,
right? I don't know. Maybe his guys weren't in the right place, but last time I checked, your defense gave up quite a few points too.
Yep.
And you don't want to begin pointing fingers, which is what it sounds like, kind of looks like, because now you got dissension within the coaching ranks, and you can't, really say much to your players that they value once that happens. They don't want to see all the dissension in the coaching staff, but I don't know. It's really interesting.
Well, Rick, and the winning just keeps happening here in Tampa Bay because the Lightning won their preseason opener in Carolina 2-1. I know you were tuned in. Watching
if I had known where to find it, maybe it was streamed. Is that right?
Yeah, it was just a web stream on the Lightning's website. Tonight's game in Nashville will be the same way. Of course, you can always listen to Dave Mishkin on the radio on 102.5 The Bone. So
the Lightning win. Yeah, all they do is win, no matter what. 2-1.
Now, starting this Friday, the preseason games will actually air on the new TV partner Scripps Sports on the Spot Channel 66 here in Tampa Bay. So.
And you have correctly advised me that it's channel 16 on my Spectrum television up here in Leeds,
16
Florida.
or I thought it was 17, but it's one of those.
They believe it's 16. It could have been 17. Okay. See, I'm going to give out bad information, but I did find it, and that's the good news. We can watch it. My girls are huge soccer fans. Sports is just about ready to start for them again, even though they'll watch football occasionally, but they really are more hockey than anything, which is funny. And look, we're almost to the best time of the year. I mean, absolute best time of the year. Got all the sports going at once. No fall baseball for the Rays, which obviously puts a damper on things.
Yes.
It is what it is. Hey, get on down to Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. I tell you about this all the time. These guys have really helped us out. Great sponsors. You're going to find beautiful watches from the Breitling company. Sports watches as well. They're doing the NFL's 104th year anniversary, and there's a watch for every 32 teams while supplies last. It is Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. Please let them know you heard about all of this on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Hey, thanks for listening. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.